What's up, everybody? I'm back, and today I have a special guest. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Nissim Black, and I'm very, very happy to be here. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I have a few questions to ask you, Nissim.
Mm-hmm.
So my first question for you is, um, my first question is in love in your mixtape for love mixtape. The theming is finding God and talented along the way. Do you feel like demons still creep in?
Do I feel like what? I'm sorry.
Like demons, like demons inside.
Demons inside. Not necessarily demons inside. I would definitely say that there is, at least in Judaism, we talk about a Yetzer Hara, where there's this evil force within all of us that's known as evil. Some of us refer to it as Satan or the Satan, but we really look at this evil inclination, that we have an inclination to do evil things, that sometimes wars with us and contends with us. A demonic force, as I understand it, from at least from a Jewish perspective, is that a demonic force is something that exists outside the body. There are, of course, stories of people being possessed in the Talmud, but don't feel possessed, but very much so fighting this natural evil inclination. Yes, I feel I have to battle with it, just like all of us. Yes.
Yes, because when I was listening to the CD, it seemed like the feeling is that finding yourself when people not believing in you, and that CD to me what really a what how I got into to your music.
Wow, amazing. Thank you. Yeah, I think so. I think the biggest thing for me is always trying to write something that is relatable, to a broad audience, but people in particular that that have a belief in God and in the spiritual world, most definitely probably going to be more inclined to listen to my music.
Yeah, and threaten number two is what made you switch to party hip hop, the uplifting music that bring people together,
I think that bring people to what? I'm sorry.
that bring people all
Feel
together.
together.
Yeah,
Right. So I think obviously the major life change of finding God or finding a path that will uplift me spiritually. And I think it's sort of like, so after a while you get tired of the same thing. So that's one level, but then I think even another level than that, you have to start asking, like, what is my legacy? What are people going to say about me? And what type of responsibility do I have, not only for my own children but other people's children? I took in a lot of different things into consideration as I started to change my style and change my content. As I had to start thinking about other people, not just myself and my own ambitions. And as I started to grow spiritually, my desires changed. The things that I wanted in life changed. And so I think all those things had some type of effect, if you will, on my music.
yeah, because like well, my parents told me about your music because I'm also doing that work. So I during the pandemic I tried to listen to different music, and my parents told me about your music because they told you on the news, and it said,
Mhm.
William, you have to listen to this. And so I listened to it, and I felt inspired. I felt like your music really was something that more people to really get into.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a big compliment. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I think inspired's the right thing. I think back on this, and there's many different things. I think if we, most of us, are able to really pay attention and concentrate on our lives and the blessings that we go through, even the troubling times, the things that appear to be very, very hard for us to go through, and then if we focus on ourselves, how we in those situations, not only ourselves have been affected but other people around us, right? I have a story that is one of triumph, of overcoming, right? And that I'm looking at it now as I'm going around the world, and I get the opportunity to speak and to talk about my story. But I remembered something few years ago that when I was when after I graduated high school, in the yearbook in the back for all the seniors, they always had their, this one had the best car, this one had the best this or the best that. But what I remember that I got out of all the things I could have got, right? I didn't have the best car. Definitely wasn't coming to school in the best New Jordans and all that. I really was a sports guy. Came to school every day, probably with sweats and and that was it. But the one thing I got, which I was very shocked about, was the most inspirational, and that's what I got. So that's sort of been a part of who I am, I guess, even since I was a kid.
And my third question is, what can we expect from you this year? What can we expect from you this year in 2022?
In 2022, I hope only more inspiration, more music. As things have transpired, my song "Adored," my most recent record, is really being received very, very well. And I'm hoping to be able to compete with myself a little bit more, and to be able to only get better and better. So hopefully more better music videos, and more inspiration for everybody.
Like your muted like your music video, especially the one for hire, that music video was touched on a whole new level.
Mhm.
That music with the chip, the camera work, everything around it was just so beautiful and
Mhm.
really captured everything that really we need right now. Because
Mm.
like during when that video came out, I was going through something very hard in my life, and listening to that song every day and memorizing the line and memorizing everything, it just lifted me up, and
Wow.
it made me feel inspired every day.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. It may go from me to you and to everybody else. I really appreciate that. That means so much to me.
Yeah, and were you able to avoid white tour? Your music is something we need more of.
Am I able to what? Write more?
No, like do like a tour of like a worldwide tour of you traveling all around the world.
Right. So, we just finished our tour, our Bright Lights tour, which we did, which started just a few days before Hanukkah, and went all the way through. And I just got home like a week ago. So over I think over a month and a half or so, I was on the road, and I didn't go completely worldwide, although I've been in a lot of different places worldwide before. I was only, I think, outside the U.S. I was only in Manchester and London. But I'm open for it, as long as people are opening up, and cities are opening up, and more venues and different things like that. We did hit a few bumps in some places because people were afraid because of the pandemic as things have started. But I'm hoping that we're seeing the beginning and the ending of the ending of that. And I really hope to be on the road and to take this worldwide. Absolutely. So, pray for me that it happens.
Yeah, like there I know that in New York there's a really large community of Jewish people here. So I'm from New York, and I noticed that you come to New York a lot. You come to Portland.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I would love to. New York, Portland, everywhere, everywhere. I'm definitely ready to go. I mean, I play there a lot, obviously, but yeah, I would definitely love to be there.
Yeah, and what do you think about the disabled community? Because myself, I'm disabled, and part of being on YouTube, being on social media, is I want to inspire people and let people know that my disability don't hold me back from anything. So, what do you think about the disabled community from your point of view?
It's very interesting you said that, because going back to high school, I remembered shortly. I guess this comment was made shortly after high school. I was somewhere and I was with a group of friends that I was very, very close to, and very, very, or very dear to me even still. Um, And one of the comments that was made was that so to speak, my inspiration went beyond the popular circles in school, and how much I was able to show love to so many different people. But one of the things he actually said to me, which honestly I didn't even think about it because I was just being myself. He says that, I even seen Nissim, they call me, black by then by just my last name. And he says he would even go into the disabled classes and just bring joy to all these guys and hang out with them and to be involved with them. And I forgot about that, like, because it wasn't something like I had to think, or I was trying to win somebody's heart, or do anything. It didn't make me cool or add to my popularity. It wasn't something that everybody did, but a lot of other people who weren't as exposed to disabled people and disabled children were really almost like afraid to go inside those places. They didn't know what to do because kids were not in operating in the conventional sense. But for me, for whatever reason, I had tough skin with that, and I was going into the classrooms and spending time in there just like I would every other place. And so that's something that was a part of me. Years later, after graduating high school, one of the jobs that I actually worked, during my time when I thought I was retiring from music, was at a place called Community Care, where I took on very hard cases with kids who were disabled in some type of way, whether it was autism, or people that were mute, and fighting all different other type of, whether it was mental illnesses or just disabled in general, born disabled. So I sort of have always really, to some degree, been involved in the community one way or another. I was able to be at HASC, which is a wonderful, wonderful place for disabled children, as a camp there. So I think very highly of disabled community. I believe that there's a lot of very, very special souls that God wanted to bring into the world, and they actually came in the form of disabled people. And it's such a blessing. It's not just my belief. I'm gonna share just a belief myself. It's actually a Jewish concept that a lot of these are very, very special souls, that were given very, very big mission in this world, that is actually here. They're actually here to help out the rest of humanity. So think very highly of the disabled community.
Thank you. And being disabled, muted to me, it brings joy to me, and that literally
Hmm.
to me it brings joy. And when I started when I listen to music, I have to feel some type of connecting. And right now, music has been it's been very different. It like all we talked about is violence and negativity and that's why during the pandemic I tried to listen to more like
Hmm.
more cultivating music like your music and all and different music to help to help to be different to find music where it's more inspiring. Though before you became Nita Black, who inspired you as a good artist to find your ways?
That's a very good question. I actually, years ago, I would listen to a lot of negativity, but I can't say that, more and more I've been sitting around, like, and I would like to say to what you just said. I think, you know, retrospectively looking back, over these last couple years, which have been hard for the world, I would say at large. Um, this pandemic and the way things were handled, I think, from the media outlets, and the way that everything was going on, and the fear and everything else that was going on, um, it made me understand in a very real way the value of hearing good news, like the value of hearing a good word, of hearing something encouraging. And I feel like after a while, so many people are bombarded. It's not just you, but the everybody was being bombarded with such negativity and such, uh, doomsday type of information, that everybody just, you always were just looking for some type of ray of hope. And I think that, as things took a turn in this pandemic, that definitely inspired me to start feeling like I can't do it any, like, I can't allow myself to be, like, in this place. I have to inspire, like, and you start thinking, like, what's my purpose? What's my soul put here to do? So I think that that was very, very important. In terms of artists, I grew up listening to the regular gangster rap stuff that you could think of: Biggie Smalls, Tupac, Jay Z. Like, that was really my circle. I think that what probably had one of the biggest impacts on me, I guess, on my way out of listening to those type of artists in particular, was Kanye West. Because even before Kanye West became, now I think he's all over the place. But before his enlightenment or whatever he did to his coming to Christianity, I don't know how stable he is all the time, so I don't like to reference anything. But as a music wise, he was a genius, genius, and he was like so himself. And I think that sometimes we all like have a desire to find ourselves, right? And Kanye just really didn't fit that mold. So that was inspiring. There was a lot of underground rappers and people that were not as big in the mainstream. There was Little Brother, which was Fonte and Big Pooh, who were rapping in a way where it just wasn't sort of like the same thing. And I started looking for records that just didn't feel like the same thing, until eventually I just kind of got away from music altogether. I wasn't listening to music like you saying. Yeah, if you would have did what I did, you probably really need to understand how much music means to you. But for me, for a couple years, I just couldn't even listen to anything. I just had to go in like a hole, and I would listen to some like cantors who would sing a cappella, but I just really couldn't listen to music for a while. And then, after a while, I just sort of got inspired and started praying to God, like asking, like, what's my purpose? And I wanted to make something inspirational. And then, eventually I was able to come to it.
Yeah, like I noted that 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 hearing your story and hearing all your music, it feels like it's a movie. It feels like you're telling
Mhm.
your story from part A to part
Mhm.
B, and that's really inspirational. They need to see somebody's life, not that not that from one side of their story, but hearing it from different people you're inspiring and hearing what they have to say, and you being helping out all these people, and you responding to everybody, that letting them know that you care about them, and that
Mhm.
that what made music inspiring, because right now, like people, the media, and artists, they really don't get to talk to their fans or even communicate with them and saying, hey, what type of music do you want me to do? It's like,
Mhm.
oh, let do whatever we want to do. We don't listen to what people want to listen to. They just think, oh, we let's talk about it, and that's like, nowadays music is that, it's all about one thing. We don't really get anything positive, and that's the sad part about it. And with your music, it's like a breath of fresh air. It's like every time I listen to your music, it does bring to me happiness, and it makes me smile. and,
Well,
and music nowadays, when you listen to it, you just feel depressed.
right, right. I've heard it said about a lot of different things, and thank you again. But I've heard it said about the internet. I heard it say obviously about a hammer or whatever. Like, listen, you can either destroy something or you can build people up with it. Music is a very high and spiritual component that could take a person to the lowest place, or it could bring a person to the absolute highest place. We're told and we see inside of, even inside the Jewish scriptures, or in the Bible, Old Testament, whatever one refers to it. Specifically in the book of Kings, I think it's First Kings, I guess, Second Kings, where Elijah himself is having this moment of when he's talking to the king of Israel, and he gets so upset that all of a sudden he loses his power of prophecy. And how is he able to regain it? Is he has to bring in musicians to come and inspire his heart to be able to give prophetic word that was his direct connection to God was the music. Music itself, like, gave him a whole new spirit. So it's very, very important that we're very careful about the type of content that we put out. And I always say, like, if you have a person's ear, a song lasts anywhere from in this generation anywhere from 3, 4 minutes of a person's time, and you're literally responsible at that time for content that's going not only into the person's ears but into their soul. It's very, 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 very important that we don't take that lightly.
No, like during the pandemic, I only listened to a multiple audit, but after I found out about your music, I started listening to you, and then also, um, I started listening to Kanye music. Like him as
Mm,
a
mm,
person, I can't really say much, but like his music, it does have meaning to it. The beats,
mhm,
the
mhm,
layers, and everything about it, and the CD he did for Thunder was just beautifully done
mm,
in so
mhm,
many ways. So like the only music I've listened to a lot is your music and that CD. But
mm,
but like your music to me at the whole it does so amazing. The song I really love the most is Best Friend. And
mm,
and and like I have a theory that it does don't talk about your relationship with God. It talks about loving yourself, and
mhm,
and when you don't have anybody to lean on, it's yourself that lean on you because you're
mhm,
only one person. You only live once. So like in the song, it talks about loving yourself and looking yourself in the mirror and telling yourself, are you okay with who you are today, and what do you want to change about yourself? So like
mm.
so like that's what I feel about the song.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I like your interpretation. Really like it.
Yeah, do you in the future do you want to collaborate with anybody? I know you collaborated with multiple people, but do you want to who in the future who would you want to collaborate with for music?
That's a very, very good question. I'm open. I've always sort of had a dream of doing stuff with Kanye, which I think he's amazing. But I've always really just kept it open. If I have the opportunity to collaborate with somebody, and it makes sense, like, I'll do it. I don't think about it too much because, like, I'm in the world of, like, there was one point where I was thinking about it, like, all the time, and I was thinking, like, oh, maybe I should do a collaboration and this and that. But I started thinking so much about my audience, lately, that I've been really focused on trying to make records that are so true to who I am, and true to what I feel, that I haven't even thought about, like, including anybody else in my truth right now, you know what I mean? So I just sort of been very, very focused on that, and sort of carving out and realizing that, you can't save the whole entire world, but there's a certain amount of, we say souls and neshamas, that we're here, that, I will be able to affect it. And so I've really been focused on that more than anything.
And right now, from do it audit, who do you what do it audit do you like to listen to? Because there used to be an audit. His name was Matiyahu, and
Mhm.
his music was also he was very similar
Mhm.
to your music in a way. So what sort of music do you think that inspired you and that you listen to on your free time?
Mm, good question. Um, yeah, Modest was great, and he had a lot of beautiful records. I would say, there's a band named Zusha, who's a Jewish band that I really like. Very, very. mellow, chilled out style, which I think I need that. I think sometimes we all need that. There is also another singer, Israeli artist named Yishai Ribo, who I really like his music also too. Is very inspiring. Is very much so in Hebrew all the time. I guess Zusha also too in Hebrew. It's a little bit different because he's Israeli, so it's very very like um, Israeli type of Hebrew. Um, and I think his song is very inspiring. I think it's sort of like he sings what I rap, almost to some degree. There's elements of us being in the same world or drinking from the same fountains in terms of content. And I mean, the list goes on. Shlomo Katz. I really try to, more than I listen to music, but use music. Use it as a sense of getting inspired and trying to get myself into a place where I feel more spiritual and more open in that sense. So uh, I would say that those are probably the top things that I listen to.
Now, my final question before we wrap up. How was it doing the tour? Because it seemed like it was really amazing doing the tour. So how was it going to each city and doing the tour?
Hmm. Thank you. Good question. The tour was amazing. Many different ways. There was like, it was very interesting too, because you go from like, you know, it's very odd to say. You go from like doing a major venue and there's like 2,000 people there, and then you come back and do another venue that's like a smaller place and it's like 100 people, 150 people there. And then you go back out, it's another 1,500 people. Then you go down and then it's like another 80 people. Like, so what's like, depending on the venue and where it was promoted, some were ticketed shows inside a venue, some were parks and outside, and it was very, very awesome to do the tour. But I think the biggest thing for me was the fact that not a people. I guess I don't talk about it as much, but I prayed for clarity and I prayed to be able to make the type of music that I make it that really inspires people and puts them in a really good place and in a happy mood, but not only happy mood, but that makes them feel, a little bit closer to the creator, makes them feel a little bit closer to themselves and the amount of stories that I heard when I was on the road just impacted me in the deepest way. To be able, spending a year um, doing Zoom and talking to people over Zoom is like it was great, but like there's nothing beats being out there like with people and I don't like the word fan as much as I love my brothers and my sisters. That was like such a beautiful um opportunity that like had 2020 and corona not happen, I don't know if I would have appreciated it as much as being able to be on this last tour. And I hope to never lose that inspiration. It was so beautiful to be amongst people and to talk to them and the stories and see how my music affected people beyond the shows and the bright lights. There were some concerts that were just great and mind-blowing, and I was so excited to do different things. I had like a different wardrobe change I was doing for most of the concerts. In between I would come back, I would go from all black and then come into all white, and everything was like sort of like it was awesome. But the biggest thing was just seeing the impact of what I was able to do with my music was it meant the world to me.
Yeah, are you going to go back on tour or you're done?
Absolutely. No, I'm gonna go back on tour. I think I'm off now for like a month and a half, and then I'm going heading back out. So where I'm going, I don't know all the places, but definitely be back in Florida, New York area for sure. Some LA, Baltimore, a lot of East Coast. So I'm hoping that it expands and goes out into the rest of the world as well.
But it was good having you come on. And where can people find your music and how can people communicate with you and tell us a little bit about where can people find you and how can people communicate with you.
Amazing, thank you. You can communicate with me obviously through the socials. I'm on Instagram and it's at Nissim Official, or on Twitter at Nissim Black. All the social websites. I also have NissimBlack.com where you can go on there, and if you have any like fan mail, then you wanted to come directly to me, we have a fan mail section, and you can definitely write me over there. And I have a podcast that happens to be on my YouTube. It's youtube.com/Nissim World. And over there, you actually get to come into my world of music videos, interviews, content, and, my own podcast, The Deal. So I'm looking forward to everybody actually getting in touch. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on here and
Thank you.
talking.
Thank you,
And you
Bob. I
have a
really
good
appreciate it.
one.
All right, you too.
Bye.
All right, all the best.